Okay, so here we have a mix that I started. In a previous video, I was showing you how I use kick samples to just get a good mix where the kick just cuts through the mix. Let me play a little bit of that right now. First, we start with the snare top, or the actual snare. Let's mix that. First, let me bring up my SSL channel. And I use presets. I have no problems using presets. If they're there already, it's a good starting point. So why don't we go ahead and do that? And I like the Chris Lord Algae snare one. And let's start with this one. But I do a couple of things here. First, I get rid of the gate. I just lower all this. Get rid of this. I like to cut at 120. Then I like to boost at 200. And then I like to boost at 8K. And let's take a listen. All right, so already it's sounding pretty good. Let me just solo the snare. This is just to hear the before and after, but I don't mix in solo. I want to hear it in the context of everything. In this case, since I'm doing drums, I want to hear the whole drum mix. This is before and after. Okay, so let's work on that a little bit. Okay, let's bring everything else in. And I like the 3K here, giving it a boost there. I think I'm going to leave that there. Let's work a little bit on the compression here. Okay, I just like to kiss it here, like about 3 dB. And then let me just work a little bit on the levels. I like to have the original snare or the snare without the EQ, and then with the EQ, and I want the levels to pretty much match. It'll be the same. All right, perfect. I'm liking where that is sitting. The next thing I do to my real snare is I use this plugin called Tapehead. I like to put it in bright, and then I'm going to use the trim knob here a little bit, but first let me play it. What this does, I mean, it's a saturation plugin, but what it does, it tends to round off the snare, where it sounds a little bit more analog and just has a nice round, instead of being a little bit too pokey or harsh. So let's listen to it in solo just so you can kind of hear the difference. This is before. Okay, and it does change the tone also, but it does give it that nice roundness. Now you're going to notice that there is a lot of bleed on this snare top. Let's listen again. But it's not bothering me yet. I may throw in a gate, but we'll see if we're going to do that later. For now, it's pretty good. Okay, next, let's compress this. I use CLA 77, and then again, I use a preset. I go to snare. I like my attack, my slow attack and fast release. I get rid of this analog, this 60 hertz noise, and I like to do about 3 dB. So, and I bring this down a little bit because right now what I want to do is just hit it for about 3 dB, and then I level match. Okay, it's averaging 3 dB, so that's pretty good. Now let's make sure that the levels are good. Okay, levels are good. That is sounding pretty good. And the last thing I do is I add a lo-fi. I got this from Jordan Valerian. Definitely check him out. He's someone that I've really modeled after. And you can probably tell some of the plugins and some of his styles is very similar. He uses this, and the way he explains this is that he uses this distortion. And what it does, it makes the snare louder without the peaks getting louder. And I'll show you in a second what that means. So I'm going to bring it for about 1, and I usually float around between 1 and 1.2. Let's start it at 1. Okay, and let's take a look over here. I'm going to do it before and after. This is before. Okay, so it got much louder. So I'm just going to bring it down maybe 2 dB. Okay, you notice I brought down the snare bottom because I already balanced these. So I just brought it down a little bit. But so far so good. I'm happy where my snare top is. So remember, the video is about how to blend real snares and samples. So right now I'm mixing real snare. And I do have a snare bottom. So I'm going to take care of that now. If you notice, there's a plug in here already. And this was because when I was doing the rough mix, I was just checking for phase. So I have to phase engage. So I'm going to keep that in mind because when I pick the preset for the snare bottom, I want to make sure that this is on. So again, Crystal Arauchi, let's go to snare bottom. And then I'm going to quickly click this because I had the phase flip. All right, let's get rid of the gate. And again, 120. Everything else stays the same. I may lower this if it's too bright, but I want to crush it. I want to hit it for about -10. But again, I'm level matching. What I want to do is I want to bring out the snare wires. I just want to hear the snare wires there. Okay, let's see how this sounds. Okay, so now because I'm boosting a lot of top end over here, I'm boosting about 6 at 8K, and here I'm boosting. I should keep it at 8 also, and then here I'm boosting around 10. So let me bring that down a little bit. Okay. All right, let me listen to the snare bottom here. Okay, so you hear the snare wires there, like the sizzle. Okay, I like that. So I'm going to keep that, but I may bring it down a little bit. Let me hear it with both of them. Okay, let's play the whole thing. Okay, so right now what I did is I muted the cymbals because I just want to hear the shells. And if I'm hearing a lot of cymbals in the shells, that means there's a lot of bleed. And I'm hearing it here. So I may now gate this. And I use a simple gate on this. Let's go to a simple gate here. Okay. And let's just mute this so we can just hear this. Okay. Let's listen to the whole thing, and then I'll do a before and after. Okay, so it looks like the toms. See, I didn't clean the toms yet, and I usually do early on, but because I want to do a video on cleaning the toms, how to mix the toms, I haven't done that yet. That's why they're. But I'm going to mute the toms now because there's no tom hits here. I don't see any tom hits here. So let's mute this, and let's see if there's any bleed. Okay, we're getting some bleed from the bottom mic, bottom snare mic. So let's just make a copy of this, and let's focus on this snare bottom. And this one I can make it a little tighter because again I just want the wires. I just want to hear the wires, so I can make it a little tighter. Let's listen to it together. Okay, that sounded pretty good. And now let's hear the whole thing. Okay, so this hat was really, let's listen to this hat. Okay, cool. So there I have a fairly good balance. And now it's time to bring the snare sample. Okay? And this is what I do. I go to snare top. I right click. Well, this is Pro Tools. I duplicate. I get rid of everything except active playlist because I want to make a copy of the track. And then group assignments. Now I normally group them. Actually, let me do that now. Let me show you how I group. I will select all my drum mix, hit Command G. Then I label the drums. And then I go to global. I keep it global. And the only thing I like to have is the solo. That's the only thing I like. And it'll still group them all. And then I can solo and unsolo. So I'm going to click OK. And now here's my drum solo. So if I click solo, they're all grouped and they're together. OK. All right. And right now, I haven't done any bussing yet. But when I'm doing a whole mix, I would normally bus them to a drum bus and then a parallel bus, and I'll talk about that in another video as well. But for now, they're all going out to the master bus. Okay, so let's make a copy of this snare top. Right click, duplicate, get rid of everything, and then I just want the active playlist and the group assignment. Click OK, and there is my duplicate. Okay, so I like to put it after the snare bottom, and I like to call it just snare 1. Okay, so if I hit play right now, it's just going to sound twice as loud because I've made a copy. But what I do is I like to bring in Slate's trigger. And now if I hit play, nothing will happen because now I haven't brought any samples. Okay. Looks like there's going to be a miss trigger there if you saw that, right? Let me zoom in here real quick and take a look at what's going on here. Okay, right there. You see that? Oh, this one right here. Oh no, he's hitting. He's like flaming. Okay, that's fine. Not a problem. All right, let's bring our sample. And the sample that I've been using for years and years is Billy Decker's Small Town sample. The snare. I don't mess with the room. I just want this. Okay, and let's take a listen. Okay, something that I did this the same thing with the kick, is that I like to make the snare short. I don't like it when it resonates. And this is what I do. Attacks still at 0, sustain at 0, and then release here as F5. Okay, and then what I like to do is I like to blend or tuck in the sample snare. Okay, so let's do that. I have it here at 16, but let's bring it all the way down and let's bring it up until we get a nice balance. Okay, I ended up at 15, so 1 dB difference. Let me just check the phase on these two. Okay, so right now the phase is not flipped, and let's listen to it. If I'm gonna flip the phase, and if the quote unquote bottom falls out, like there's no body or there's no low end, then you know that the phase is out of phase. Okay, you can hear a little bit of it, but if you are flipping it back and forth and you don't hear a difference, leave it to where it is, what the original was. In this case, like this. Okay. All right. So I think this is sounding pretty good. I'll just do another quick overall level balance. I may bring this snare top down a little bit, but let's see. Let's go also to where there's not so much open hi-hat, like maybe like a verse where the hi-hat is closed. Probably here. See this? See down here? Looks like there's a closed hat here. It looks like there's a break in the song here, and then the kick comes in. So let's play from here. Okay, and let's go back to the chorus. Probably the chorus comes around here. All right, so let's listen to the snare top, snare bottom, and snare. And I'm gonna mute this, like bypass it, and then bring it in, and let's take a listen to it. Okay. Okay, so you hear that the snare sample is adding some weight to it, okay? But by itself, the snare top, it's a little thin. And now I'm going to do the opposite, okay? I'm going to play the snare sample, and then I'm going to mute the snare top. And you're going to hear that it doesn't sound good by itself also. Okay, so I'm just probably going to bring it up maybe a little bit more. And let's listen to it together. Okay, so obviously the whole drum mix is not finished. There's so much more that I will do, but right now where it's at, I'm happy with it. Some of the levels is pretty close. I think the snare I'll balance a little bit better, but that's when I start bringing some more compression and I do some parallel compression on the whole drum mix. But as of right now, I'm happy with this. I like where everything is sitting. Okay, let's play it one more time and let's just focus. I'm going to mute, bypass the sample, and then see if you can hear the blend of the snare sample with the real snare. Here we go. All right. So for me, that is sounding pretty good. In the next video, we'll start mixing the cymbals, how I mix the overheads, the hat, and then the room. And then I will show you how I do the toms. And then I'm going to show you how I do my drum bus. And then you will be able to hear everything together. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It helps with the channel, it helps me bring out more content to you. And until next time, happy mixing.